little YouTube live update about the forecast for today, Tuesday, and likely into Wednesday as well, as we see our next storm system, our next weather maker rolling in. That's going to bring us a little bit more in the way of active weather, but wind is actually going to be really the big story, I think, for this evening and into the day on Tuesday. So give me just a minute. I'll get everything working here behind the scenes. What I will do is flip it around, show you some live views across the area, as it is a very beautiful start to the work week. We've seen those temperatures ranging from the 40s to the 60s this morning, and we're going to see those temperatures warming up pretty nicely for the afternoon. So I'll say this, for the first half of the day especially, it'll be a good time to get out. Most areas, I think it'll be good. It'll be a nice day to get out area wide. But if you have any plans towards any of our lakes this afternoon and into the evening, certainly be aware there will be some pretty choppy conditions, and we could even be crossing into hazardous or dangerous territory in northwest Montana for this evening, as those winds really kick up to in excess of 40 miles per hour potentially. Something we'll have to keep a very close eye on. So that is working here. One last thing, and I think we'll get started with this. That is working like I was hoping. So, on that note, I say let's get started with this update. If you have any questions or comments as we go throughout this, feel free to ask those. Again, if you're coming in late or you happen to catch this later, the current time is 8:45. Now, we've got a ridge of high pressure that's pushing off to the east. We're more in a zonal flow pattern right now, and this is what's helping to keep things overall pretty quiet this morning. We're seeing ample sunshine, just a few clouds from our Missoula camera. Those were a little bit more full about an hour or so ago, but right now we've got those temperatures in the 50s and 60s, so we've seen those warm up pretty nicely. We're at 65 in Kalispell, 66 Missoula, 67 in Dillon, and 58 in Butte. It's going to be a warm day across the region, thanks to this zonal flow, maybe the little bit of that ridge still hanging on right now. But you notice this trough of low pressure. There's just the little dip right there. That's what's going to bring us some bigger changes over the next little bit. It looks like it just kind of stalls out, but then it dips into the area, and with that is going to be a cold front that's going to bring some much cooler temperatures for Tuesday, as well as some widespread precipitation, especially into northwest and southwest Montana, before we see that little dip in the jet stream drop off to the east, and we get back into the more of that zonal flow, maybe a little bit of a northwesterly flow. That's going to keep things overall pretty quiet once we get beyond the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. But as for those temperatures, because of the cold front getting in here later in the day, especially, or maybe even more so into the overnight period, still going to be quite warm out there. 87 in Kalispell, 89 in Butte, 95 Bozeman, 93 Missoula, 91 Salmon, and 84 for West Yellowstone. I think most areas will see mostly clear skies throughout the day, though as we get into the later afternoon and especially the evening hours, we'll start to see those clouds increasing in northwest Montana, but also in southwest Montana, and that's going to lead to the development of some isolated showers and thunderstorms. But we're also going to be dealing, in combination with the hot temperatures, some breezy winds, and that's going to lead to an increase in our fire weather concerns, at least a slight increase in those. Going through a quick update of some of our fires right now. If you were with us, if you're watching on Friday, this map was much more filled in, especially into eastern Montana. A lot of those fires were put out this weekend. Only one that's left in southeastern Montana is the Wooden Thigh Fire. As for ours in our region, the Thompson Fire here north of Wisdom is relatively small. It's only a couple of acres right now, something there that the crews are staying on top of. And then we get to the Green Mountain and Garnet fires up here between the Ovando and Drummond areas. The Green Mountain fire, roughly 20 acres in size. Last update I saw was 20% contained on that one. The Garnet fire is over 120 acres right now. So this one is the bigger, or I'll say the biggest current fire ongoing in the state, the Garnet, at around 120 or so acres. that could help to bring in a little bit more smoke into places like Ovando over towards Lincoln. These two fires are. A little bit of extra haze may come into Butte, Wise River, Anaconda because of the Thompson fire. But then we get into those fires in Idaho and the specifically the Big Bear fire. That one has been quite active over the last few days and continues to be a pretty active wildfire there just to the southwest of the state line right here. That fire is over 1,000 acres in size, and the Rush fire to its south is over 530 acres. So these two right here are our big smoke producers. So if you've noticed a little bit of haze in the air from this weekend or even, over the next couple of days, most of that will be coming from one of those two fires, if not both of those fires. So something we'll keep a close eye on over the next few days. Today, the winds could help to spread these fires. That's something really over the next 2 days that we'll have to keep a very close eye on and see how the activity on those fires develops and behaves with the increase in winds later on today. And especially when we get that shift out of the north tomorrow. There's going to be plenty of rain, I think, involved with that front, especially for northwest and southwest Montana. But you can get that quick wind shift. If you don't have enough precipitation involved, you can see those spread pretty quickly as well, or at least the activity on them increase. So certainly we'll be keeping a close eye on it, but certainly stay tuned for any of those updates. I know we've got a few more people that have worked their way in, so if you have any questions or comments as we go throughout this, feel free to ask those in the chat section. I'll try and keep a close eye on that as we go moving forward. Getting into the winds, again, if you were here at the very start, this is going to be, I think, the biggest concern for today, especially as we get into this evening and overnight. We're going to have wind advisories that will be going into effect for the Butte Blackfoot region as well as the Potomac Seeley Lake regions as we get later on into today. Those will begin at 9 p.m. continuing through 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Those we could see winds sustained of around 20 to 30 miles per hour, 20 to 35 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 50 to 55 miles per hour. Additionally, we've got the high wind watch up here in northwest Montana, similar on those sustained winds of 20 to 35 miles per hour, but gusts of 50 to nearly 60 miles per hour are possible up here. That high wind watch is for Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning. This could be upgraded to a high wind warning at some point throughout the day, and if it's not, then it would be reduced back down to a wind advisory, but still, some very strong winds are expected, especially in some of our western foothills that may see some more downslope flow, since this is going to be a northerly wind that may come down the mountain this way. So with those types of winds, tree limbs may start to come down. We could see some sporadic power outages, and then we could also be dealing with some pretty dangerous conditions on our lakes. So Flathead Lake, Whitefish Lake, Swan Lake especially, those are the three that have my closest attention to potential impacts from some big waves, potentially as much as maybe 2 to 4 feet if we do get those 50-mile-per-hour winds. That's something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. But still, just expect some pretty blustery conditions as we get into this afternoon and evening. As for our concern for this wind, like I was mentioning, tree damage, some power outages will certainly be possible. That's just one of those unfortunate results of high winds like this. So I think we're in this moderate to high category, especially for northwest Montana, areas along the divide where we may see a little bit of that for this afternoon and through the day tomorrow. Now, as for how the winds will behave, before I get into the precipitation side of things, they are going to be expanding or the strongest winds will be expanding in coverage as we head into Tuesday afternoon. Probably still looking at around 20 to 30 miles per hour across all of western Montana for the Tuesday afternoon time period. Could see gusts 30 to 45 miles per hour down in the southern Bitterroot Valley, just the way that the flow is going to be coming down the mountain. Places like Hamilton down to Charloes Heights, to Grantsdale, Darby, Sula. those are really where I have my attention for Tuesday afternoon, but even into southwest Montana, we could be dealing with some of those stronger gusts as well. As for the precipitation side of things, most areas stay dry today. Northwest Montana, we will start to see those increasing into the afternoon, as well as down in southwest Montana, and I'll show you this sort of dual mode chance of showers and storms here in a minute. We'll see that up to around maybe 40% today. That increases upwards to about 50 to 70% into Tuesday before the system really begins to clear out for the end of this week. Some spotty showers can't be ruled out in that northwesterly flow, but really it does look like Monday night and Tuesday are going to be our primary focus. Maybe more widespread showers and storms. Now, starting off 4 to 5 o'clock, you see some isolated thunderstorms down here in southwest Montana, as well as right along the Canadian border and trying to work its way down towards the Flathead Valley. That'll be pretty spotty in nature, but I think as we get, here's looking at 9 p.m., looking first up here in northwest Montana, really from the Yak Valley over to, say, Eureka, Rexford, Glacier National Park. It's where we have that best chance. So north of US 2, we'll have that best chance for rainfall this evening. In northwest Montana, really on a line from about, I would say, southwest of Dillon, back up to, say, Three Forks, Belgrade, Bozeman, so Ennis, West Yellowstone, included in that chance for some showers and maybe weak thunderstorms this afternoon. Those will continue overnight, though diminishing in southwest Montana, but you'll notice how everything starts to increase in northwest and even parts of west central Montana. This is all going to be behind that cold front. It's going to move through pretty quickly overnight, and I think it's going to pretty much clear the area as we get into early Tuesday morning. But you see all of the precipitation back here into northwest Montana and north central portions of the state. If you're in Kalispell, Columbia Falls, Whitefish, down towards Polson, Pablo, or Onan, might not be a bad idea to have the rain gear for tomorrow morning's commute. There could be a few embedded thunderstorms in this as well. And in the highest elevations of Glacier National Park, yes, there will likely be some snowfall into Tuesday morning just due to the cold air that's going to be coming behind that cold front. We'll see that moisture begin to spread southward through the region throughout the day. Right now, it's going to be very interesting to see how this develops. A lot of the models are keeping conditions relatively dry from about Interstate 90 down through Missoula to Butte, and then really in this zone. So I don't want to go as far as Dillon, but Butte, back over to Lost Trail Pass, up towards I-90, all the way from Missoula up to Lookout Pass. This includes the Bitterroot Valley. We may just be dealing with some very spotty showers. We may miss out on the majority of this moisture. So northwest, southwest Montana will be the focus. Then we get into the afternoon hours, and you see this big blow-up of thunderstorms. That's something we'll have to keep another really close eye on. Could see a few stronger thunderstorms develop down there, closer to Lima, Ennis, West Yellowstone, Big Sky, on at least how this trajectory on those storms are. Earlier ones had these moving all the way up towards Dillon, Bozeman, a little bit further north, maybe Harrison, Pony, Whitehall area, and then out to Livingston. So roughly in that zone, we could see a couple of stronger thunderstorms. Some frequent lightning with those will also be possible for Tuesday afternoon and evening. And you see how those march off through Yellowstone National Park and in the direction of Billings. But you notice a lot of that moisture, again, stays pretty much clear of this zone. Missoula, Bitterroot Valley is back down towards Georgetown Lake, Anaconda, Butte, and even parts of the Big Hole Valley as well, while those showers continue northwest Montana and along the divide. As we get into Tuesday evening, can't rule out another round of maybe a few isolated thunderstorms continuing in just kind of a couple of waves. Showers will slowly diminish overnight, though, as we get, I think, closer to sunrise on Wednesday, outside of a couple of sprinkles here and there down towards Bozeman and Dillon. This storm system begins to clear the area, and by midday, I think most of the region is looking at sunny skies as westerly flow begins to, or kind of northwesterly flow begins to filter in with a ridge starting to build off to our west. So that's kind of a rough play of the timing of all of the precipitation, here is a look at the potential rainfall we could see. I think northwest and southwest Montana, again, has the best chance for rainfall over a tenth of an inch. These may be a little overdone, but a tenth to a quarter of an inch, I think, for Kalispell, Bozeman certainly can't be ruled out, especially if the storms develop in the way that they do in southwest Montana. If you happen to get underneath any of those thunderstorms, you may see some slightly higher totals, and this is where these quarter to half an inch totals start to show up. Can't even rule out a few areas, especially in the higher elevations in northwest Montana, where we're picking up maybe a half an inch to an inch of precipitation, and in those highest elevations, that could be a little bit of snow as well. So some raw backcountry conditions can't be ruled out in Glacier over the next, say, 24 to 36 hours. But as we were looking on the loop of Future Tracker, really this zone, so Missoula, Butte, Wisdom, Hamilton, maybe we don't see quite as much in the way of precipitation. There's a bit of a dry slot there, so we may miss out on the majority of that much needed wet weather. So hopefully we can get a little bit of that in, but right now it's not looking particularly great. But northwest, southwest Montana, areas along and east of the divide, again, outside of Butte, looking pretty decent. As for those temperatures, let me get this in the correct position because I realized this is not doing what I want it to do. So, while I'm making some brief adjustments here, just to get this in the right place, as I was going to talk about some of the temperatures, we're going to see a big drop in those as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, at least in comparison to what we're going to be today, which again is going to be in the 80s and 90s. But there will be a little bit of a reprieve from the heat, so if you're looking for that, you are certainly in luck. So let me get this pulled up here. There we go. As for today, again, 80s and 90s for our area, looking at 101 there out in Lewiston, Idaho. So it's going to be a hot one. No two ways around it. Tuesday, you see that big change from the 80s and 90s down into the 60s and 70s for most areas, but Cut Bank, Great Falls, Helena, highs only in the 50s for Tuesday with widespread showers and widespread rainfall expected. 61 Kalispell, 69 Missoula, 66 Butte, and then 72 and 75 for Bozeman, Dillon, and West Yellowstone. But still pretty hot down in Salmon, where that front kind of starts to wash out. It doesn't quite make it that far south, so still 91 there in Salmon. So big swing in temperatures in a relatively short distance as the crow flies going from Salmon to Dillon. Then we get into Wednesday, and you'll notice the temperatures slowly start to moderate back. We're back into the 70s for most areas, though Missoula, 80 degrees, Butte, 68 degrees. Still looking at the chance for maybe a few morning showers, but Thursday, we're back into the 80s area-wide, and by Friday, most areas still in the 80s, though Missoula up to 90 degrees. That ridge a little bit stronger back off to the west, where we're seeing that 98 there in Lewiston. But we will be looking at temperatures near to slightly above average as we get into Friday, and that's kind of a, when it comes to our temperatures, we are approaching the peak, or at least average hottest period of the year. We're still about 2 weeks away from that, but that occurs late July and into early August. So pretty typical for us to be back up into the 80s and 90s at this point. The average high temperature, I think, at the top point, and I'll have to confirm this, I believe it's 89 degrees in Missoula, and that's going to be that last week of July, first week of August. Now, if you're just tuning in late, just a quick, here's a recap of what we are. Again, last call. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask those. Today, we're going to be pretty quiet for most of the morning and afternoon. That cold front will be arriving later on this evening. Now, ahead of that, we're going to see some gusty winds, about 20 to 30 miles per hour. As that front moves into northwest Montana, we're going to see those gusting upwards to about 40 to 60 miles per hour. Again, we have a high wind watch that will be in effect for this evening through early Tuesday morning up in northwest Montana. That could be upgraded to a high wind warning at some point throughout the day. And then we have wind advisories for the Butte Blackfoot region and Potomac-Sealy Lake regions. Those begin at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. this evening and continue through 8 p.m. on Tuesday. In addition to the cold front bringing those strong gusty winds, we're going to be dealing with scattered showers and thunderstorms. Right now, it does look like northwest and southwest Montana will be the focus of those showers and storms. West central portions of the state, extending outwards to about Wisdom, Butte area, we could see pretty dry conditions. Still, some spotty showers can't be ruled out, but I think the likelihood is better for places like Kalispell, Polson, Sealy Lake, down towards, then you get into Bozeman, Three Forks, Big Sky, Ennis, Lima, and Dillon. You're going to be right on the edge of that as well. So that continues through Wednesday morning before the storm system begins to push off to the east. And by Wednesday afternoon, continuing through the weekend, we're going to be looking at northwesterly flow into the region. This will primarily be dry flow into western Montana, though an isolated shower or thunderstorm each afternoon can't be ruled out all through this period, but we'll be steadily warming into the weekend, though as it looks like right now, we're not going to be dealing with a major heat wave by any means. Temperatures still above average. 80s and low 90s are going to be common, I think, as we get into this weekend. But again, not some crazy amounts of heat, like getting into the triple digits or anything like that. Still waiting to see those first indications of maybe some triple digits. We've had a couple of very close calls, but I don't think we've quite gotten there yet. So just kind of quick little recap again with those winds tonight. Northwest Montana could see some tree limbs come down, sporadic power outages are possible, and potentially hazardous conditions on area lakes with those winds. So I'll say one thing that's fortunate, that the strongest of these are going to be occurring overnight, so there may not be very many people on the lakes. But if you're doing any camping, be aware of those winds, as if you get tree limbs to fall, you don't want to park your tent underneath some of those maybe loose limbs as we get into tonight, as they may begin to come down. Additionally, Glacier National Park, there could be some raw conditions, combination of the rain that we're going to see, temperatures up in those higher elevations, probably dropping down into the 30s and 40s as we start Tuesday morning, and that could lead to a little bit of snowfall in those highest elevations. Primarily will stay as rain, but some of that could be moderate to heavy at times. And one last little note, as this system begins to clear into Wednesday morning and Thursday morning, there may be enough cold air involved with the high pressure starting to build in from the west. Places like Polbridge, Olney, in northwest Montana, we could see those temperatures getting into frost territory, and still a little bit in flux about how those temperatures are going to behave, but low to mid 30s do appear possible there. Most areas will be in the 40s, even behind this cold front. So I don't think we're going to be talking about widespread frost or freeze concerns, but they're going to be very spotty and isolated in nature. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you all have a great Monday and a great rest of your week. I may pop in to do another one of these here middle parts of this week. Just depends on how conditions go with the storm system. Maybe I pop in tomorrow if we're dealing with power outages and things like that. But overall, we're going to be looking at windy conditions today, slightly elevated fire weather concerns. Then we see the strongest winds overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Better chances for showers area-wide for Tuesday afternoon before the system clears out on Wednesday, and we're starting to dry out and warm up for the end of the week. So if you have any photos or videos of the storm system, the winds, the rainfall, any lightning, things like that, certainly feel free to share those with us at nbcmontana.com/chime-in, and we'll be back for the latest news and weather updates tonight at 5, 6, and 10, and then I'll be back for tomorrow morning with Jason Hurst on NBC Montana Today. Have a great one. I'll see you all in the next one. With NBC Montana, I'm meteorologist Mitchell Combs.